There are other companies that will come in and pack and unpack, but what's different about us is our thorough and deep understanding of our clientele and what their needs are and how best to work with them at all stages of health and abilities.
Hi there. Welcome to the Connecting KC podcast. I'm Rachel Kilmer, also known as Rach the Realtor on the internet, where I love, connecting all things KC. I'm a metro area real estate agent, retired sports reporter, and mom, and probably too old to call myself a TikToker, but honestly, that's how we got here. You can learn more at www.rachtherealtorkc.com. But this show is all about introducing you to all of the movers and shakers, interesting people, heartfelt stories, and funny quirks that make this vibrant community home. So let's get right to it with today's episode of Connecting KC. Welcome into today's episode of Connecting Kansas City, where I am so excited to be joined by Jennifer Wuebker. She co-owns Resettle Me with her mom, Peggy. Resettle Me moved its first client in 2016, and since that time has worked with hundreds of older adults as they navigate the physically and emotionally challenging process of downsizing and moving. Jennifer is an active member of the National Association of Senior and Specialty Move Managers. Resettle Me is the only move management company in the KC Metro to hold the association's A+ accreditation, which is awarded to companies that have demonstrated a high level of experience, customer service satisfaction, extensive knowledge and training in working with the senior population, and strict adherence to the ethics involved in doing so. It's officially the best job she's ever had. Jennifer is a native Kansas Citian and lives on the Missouri side of town with her family. Jennifer, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. This is so exciting. I love that you do this podcast.
Yeah, it's so fun because the whole point of it is connecting people with other people, companies, businesses, stories that they may or may not have heard of. And that's so huge that you're here because I think most people don't know what is involved with an older adult moving, whether it be into senior living or just downsizing to a smaller home. I think people underestimate how emotionally taxing that can be for them. And just like most of them have 50 years of stuff to sort through as well. How did you come to see this need to build this company around it?
Yes, so you're exactly right. Super emotional process. And we learned it firsthand because, so you heard I'm in business with my mom, Peggy. Peggy has an aunt that she's since passed, but at the time was living in Minneapolis and didn't have any children. And she needed to move from her home that she'd lived in for, 40 some years. And in order to do that, when we were far and she was there, we thought, how are we going to make this happen? And so the community that she was moving to told Peggy about a company who provides service like we do today. Peggy hired them and they moved Donna, her aunt, and it was a great experience. And I mean, we didn't even know such a service existed. Peggy came home and said, hey, what do you think about doing this here in Kansas City? And we checked into it a little bit. And we had the great good fortune to be able to go to Philadelphia when we decided we were going to open this business. We got to go to Philadelphia and do a job share session with Margaret Novak, who is really considered kind of the mother of the senior move industry. So we got to go up there for a few days and learn from her. And we came back and said, let's do this thing. And we've been doing it ever since 2016.
Amazing. And you guys do such a good job. So we met when I was working at John Knox Village, which is a local senior living community in Lee Summit. And I would just fall in love with my clients. Like they became my grandparents, And so I was like, they must have the absolute best care and the best, people with them. And so I always felt so great about referring them out to you guys. And I know you feel the same way. What is your relationship like with these clients throughout the process? Like from the first time you go meet them to like the last time you hug their necks and say, okay, congrats, you're moved in. How does that relationship evolve and develop typically?
Yes. I love that question because the relationship really is kind of a big focus of our service. So when we first find out that somebody may be interested in working with us, we go out and we meet them. And, it's one thing to talk about on the phone, that they're going through this process. But it's a different thing for them to meet us, for us to meet them, for us to get our eyes on what they're dealing with there at their house. And so we spend about 90 minutes together and we sit down and we really we want to learn from this client. What are they worried about as they're making this move? Because these types of moves are very different than, we've all moved because we got a great new exciting job, or we've moved because we have a family now, we need a bigger house and it's real exciting. These moves are different. These moves have a pretty big tinge of sadness to them. Even though some of these clients are excited to be doing it, the thought of leaving behind a home and the things inside that have been such a part of their life and their family's lives for decades, in many cases, it's really overwhelming. So we hear about the concerns that they have, because sometimes people, they want to move, they know they need to move. I will say the majority of people that hire us to do their moves really aren't doing this move because they want to. They're often doing it because they have a need to, whether that is because of a health issue, or they've recently lost a spouse, or there's just some other things going on here that negate it. So as we get to know the needs that they have, we make a plan with them. We hear about how soon they want to be moving. And this is where it's so great. We love working with your team too, Rachel, because you guys really understand what this can be like for these people. It's a little bit different. So we tend to be like-minded, and we're always looking for that from a realtor. And you guys do an excellent job of that.
What is logistically different for you guys? What do you do that's above and beyond versus someone hiring just a regular mover?
Yes. So we are going to, first of all, the first step we're going to do is figure out furniture and what they're going to take. And so just about everybody that hires us, although I will say lately we're seeing more people who are not necessarily downsizing per se. They're moving and they're still going to, a 2,500 square foot home. So there's still a lot of things moving there. But most of our clients are moving somewhere quite a bit smaller. So we've got to figure out what they're going to take. We measure their furniture with them. We go and actually see the new place that they're going to be moving to ahead of time. And we make sure we understand, how are these doors opening and where is the cable, and what do the kitchen cupboards look like and how many are there? Because that's important as we're starting to plan outside of furniture, the other things that they're going to bring. So once we have furniture figured out, we start with sorting. And that's really the deciding piece that gets hard for people. Some of our clients have family that is close by and wants to help. And so then we just sort of supplement, and we provide what we call homework lists to these families that are, they say, my daughter's coming this weekend. What do we need to work on? And we keep their focus on the work that's going to help them get moved, not so much the work that is going to force them to go up in that attic and open those 300 boxes that they haven't looked at in 20 years. We're going to try to drive them towards what we call shopping in their own home. Let's think about, how do you live today? And what are the kinds of activities that you do today? Because what our goal is to make their new home feel like their home in a different location. And so we want to understand, how do they spend their days? What's their favorite chair? When they want to relax to watch TV, where are they planning to sit down? We want to find those pieces of furniture and those items that we know when they plop down at the end of move day, if they have their knitting right by their chair and that's what they do at night, we want to make sure that it's there waiting for them when they sit down. We are not movers at Resettle Me. We partner with movers. But we have very good relationships with a few select movers that we work with all of the time. And so when people hire us, they don't have to deal with scheduling that or, talking to the movers about everything or having the estimates for that. We're there to help guide through that. So it feels like one solution, even though it's actually two companies. And then when it's getting close to move day, we are not going to start packing it until the day before they move. And that's really important because we're trying to keep this client comfortable in their home until it's go time. And so we have ways of working with them ahead of time that we don't do like the stacks of, piles over here and piles over there. We have ways of working with them to make their decisions and have it ready for our pack team. So we come in the day before, we bring all the packing materials that we're going to need. We're a team of all women currently. So we come in, they're professionally trained packers, all of us, and we split up and we start at 9 and we always try to be finished by 2 o'clock or sooner in many cases. But they're able to sleep there that night. They're able to, watch TV. We're not going to do any of that until move day. And then when move day comes, we're going to be there with the movers. This is a real important thing. This frees people from having to be in the middle of move day. Move day is a long day. And for many of our clients who are dealing with some health or physical challenges, that it would be better for them and more fun for them if they can go have lunch with their daughter or go relax with a friend somewhere while this move is happening. And that's what we allow for. And so once the move has happened, in about 95% of the cases, we're going to have people unpacked and comfortable that night. So every once in a while, we have to come back the following day. If they brought the big curio full of Waterford crystal, we'll be back the next day. But most of the time, it's a 2-day affair, packing and then moving and unpacking.
And I think what is so key about this is 2 details. One is the floor plan you do of their furniture, so they can see and they can rearrange it, right? Of like,
yes.
Okay, this is your 6-foot dining table that must go into this 800 square foot apartment because it's your cherished heirloom. Here's how it will look in there. And then they can sit there and kind of play with it. Talk to me about the floor plan process and what that looks like and how much that means to people to be able to kind of physically move things where they want them to be.
Yes, for sure. So we know there are a million great ways you can do digital floor plans today. You can make really sharp looking things on an iPad pretty fast. But what we've learned is that when people are making these decisions, they want to be able to touch it. They want to get their hands on it because a lot of our clients, they have an idea. They kind of think, this is kind of what I was thinking, and they want to show us. And so we've come up with a way we produce a it's to scale, 1/4 inch equals a foot kind of little kit that we put together. And we've just gotten really good and really fast at it. And it's super accurate. And so we can sit down with them and they can show us. And the great part about a floor plan session is it takes away from anybody being, quote, the bad guy who is telling mom or dad that, no, the big old huge 96-inch sofa is not quite going to work. The numbers kind of speak to it. And something that is really core to what we do at Resettle Me is we keep the client in control of this process. For our clients, they're making this move at a time where they are experiencing a lot of other losses, a lot of other loss of things. When people work with us, they're going to be the decision maker. Our job is to inform them of consequences of those decisions. We'll explain what's going to happen if we bring that 96 inch couch and they say, well, then I might not be able to open the door. And we say, that's right. And then they kind of figure it out for themselves. It's much more effective than sitting there, trying to convince somebody something's not going to work. We just ask the questions and find out why they want to do something. We've learned sometimes the reason they want that long couch is because their grandkids come and they want a place for them. It pulls out and they want a place to host the grandkids. And so when we hear the reason, we can usually find another suggestion to still allow them to host those grandkids. But, how often do they come? And when we find out they come twice a year, we say they make these really nice inflatable mattresses that you can have, and the kids will think it's great. And so we just try to help them think of other ways to meet their goals, but still keep their space safe and how they want it to be.
Mm-hmm. And then once you unpack them and move them in, they walk in and the furniture is laid out exactly how they envisioned. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys label all the kitchen cabinets and drawers too, so that if they're like, I'm thirsty for a glass of water, where are my glasses? They immediately know that. What is that? What goes into that process of picking which cabinet to put the plates in and which cabinet to put the spices in, and how you organize that?
Yes, we get this question so much. People say to us, well, I don't know about that. When we say, hey, we're going to put your kitchen back together. And they say, how are you going to know where I want things? And we tell people that you actually, believe it or not, and this is true for all of us, we all have clues around our home for how we like to live. And so that's why we really stress to people, Don't be starting to pack. Don't be, pulling things out of your cabinets. We want to see how you have them today. And we want to see how you have things on the counter space today. We take a lot of photos while we're working. So with our team, whoever's going to work in the kitchen is going to be the person who's working in the kitchen the next day. So they know, they see the starting zone. They know what they're putting in here. They know what they're bringing out. And we try very hard to keep it as similar as to how they've had it. But also, sometimes when you've had, 25 kitchen cabinets and now you have, maybe 8 or 10, it's going to be a little different. This is where our team is so great. They're very intuitive to this process. They're paying attention to making sure the most used things that we've realized are this client's most used things are going to be easily accessible on the lower shelves of the cabinets or out, where they expect them to be. So we hear that a lot, that we get it. I tell clients, we're going to get this 90% right and 10% wrong. And that's because there's going to be this little things that you see that are not quite how you would do it. But that's the fun part for them. That's why I say you come in and now you're going to make it exactly your own. We'll get you 90% of the way there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What is the hardest part about running a business like this? Is it staffing? Is it, finding good third-party vendors? Like, what's the biggest challenge that you guys face time and time again?
Yes. So we're fortunate in that we have had great success with having a strong team. And we also have great movers. A hard part, I think, is we're selling a service that many people need and they don't realize it. And so our job is we do a lot of education in our world. People call us and they think, I just need somebody to pack and unpack me, and then when we explain how it's a little different than that, they don't necessarily understand it, but they, at the end of it, they say, I can't believe this. I did not know, that this is what we were looking for. So we know ahead of time in a lot of cases probably what is needed, but getting our clients there to see it is sometimes challenging.
Mm-hmm. When I worked in the sales department at John Knox Village, I would always spot my clients that were like the cheapest, most frugal people. And those were the ones I'm like, you're the one that needs this the most, because I promise you, this is the best money you could spend. Like, this is why you save for retirement, to be able to hire services like this, because you need this. And I felt like once I explained that to them, they were okay. But it's a lot easier for me to say, because I don't benefit from them using you other than like it helps them, versus like you saying that about your own company. They're like, okay, well, sure, you say we need it, but like, so I can see how that's challenging to really communicate the value of it that you really don't see until you're sitting there at the end. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I remember too, I'm thinking of two specific clients in my head that like, they were so frugal their whole lives and never spent on luxuries or services or anything. And both of them came back to me later and said, that you were right. That was the best thing I could have done. So it's definitely well worth it. I could see how challenging that is to communicate that to people.
Yes. Yeah. So most of the people, I think people see the value, and they quickly see the value when we're in their home with them. That's something that we're known for, is making people comfortable and doing things on their terms. And that's even, I'd like to point out, that's even in cases where some of our clients are experiencing some level of cognitive decline or, early dementia or things like that. That can sometimes be more challenging with decision making. However, this is still their move, this is still their rodeo, I always say. And so we have, our staff is trained on this. And so that's often where, there are other companies that will come in and pack and unpack. But what's different about us is our thorough and deep understanding of our clientele and what their needs are and how best to work with them at all stages of health and abilities.
For people that have aging family members that they know need to make a move like this, how would you advise, like, if you're like, hey, we're talking to our friend and they're like, hey, my mom really needs to downsize, but she's overwhelmed. She doesn't even know where to begin. What advice do you have for someone in that position to try to get their parent or their aunt or whoever it is to be open-minded about making a move and reassure them that it's not going to be as painful as it might seem?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a question that just about everybody wrestles with at one time or another. And I think the thing to think about is, when talking to your parents or your, older family members, find out, what are the struggles and the benefits of making a move like this? Why are they starting to think about this? And when you learn what the reasons are, then it's, time to start asking, well, how could this be done? And what would you like it to be like? And it's asking more questions. It's not, Mom, it's not the telling. It's not the, you guys really got to get out of here. This is a problem, It's really asking and getting them to sort of answer their own questions about things. For example, when they're worried, we hear a lot that people are worried that somebody's going to get hurt in a house. They can't do the stairs anymore. It's asking them about, well, what would we do if that happened, and getting them to kind of see that these moves are actually much better and go greater when people make them before they feel like they really need to. It does a couple of things. It gets them settled into a new community well before they may have the health challenges and things that come up. And it just gives them time to get settled. And all the hundreds of people that we've moved, we follow up with people a lot, and we see past clients a lot when we go to the communities. Haven't seen anybody yet who tells us they wish they didn't do it. It's the doing it that's the hard part. It's at the front end that it sounds so scary, but you can get there with proper planning and a little bite at a time too. Yeah.
We have a mutual past client that was a couple with a major downsize, and they moved, and almost immediately one partner got ill, and the other partner keeps saying, I can't imagine what if we were still in that house and we hadn't done this already. So I think you're spot on that, like, doing it before you have to is like the best way to go for sure, because you never know what life's going to throw at you next. So do it while you're capable. And then that way you can just focus on whatever health issues arise or whatever, instead of having to worry about a move and a downsize and all that. So super important.
Exactly.
Okay. So last two questions I ask everyone that's on the show. First one is, what is a great meal that you have had out and about in the Kansas City area recently?
Recently. So I live out near Greenwood, and there is a Mexican restaurant out there called Barrigas. I don't know if you've been out there. It's delicious. Now, if you see it, you might go, I don't know, but do it. If you see it, go. It is so good and pretty authentic too. So.
That's like the best kind of Mexican, I feel like. Yes. If the outside, you're like, if it's like fancy, I'm like, it's not going to be legit, like.
It's true.
So it has to just be like a family run, like local place. That's awesome. Okay. Last question is, where can people get a hold of you guys? Where are you on social media, your website, anyone that has questions to pick your brain? How can they get a hold of you?
Yes. So our website is at resettleme.com, and we are on Facebook and Instagram at Resettle Me as well. And anybody could just call us too. We're 913-667-2301.
Awesome. All right. Well, Jennifer, thank you for the work you do for our older adults around Kansas City. It's so needed and important. And thank you for taking the time to come on the show today.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.